What's up, everybody? Welcome to the PickSix podcast, CBS Sports daily NFL podcast. I'm Will Brinson. I'm your host. It's Monday, December 14th, and we are about to preview the Baltimore Ravens and Cleveland Browns football game on Monday night. Joining me to do so, the man, the myth, the legend, Mike McClure, sportsline.com. By the way, go to sportsline.com/join and use promo code Mike. Is that right?
Promo code Mike will get you there. $1 for your first month.
$1 for your first month. You get all of Mike's picks. He's actually smashing on college basketball as well, too, if you want to dive in on that, I believe. Right? Aren't you?
Yeah, college basketball is a very, very fun sport to bet. A lot of little edges this year as their teams are playing without fans. That's a huge deal when you're talking about 18 to 20-year-old kids.
Sure.
Yeah, nice edges in college basketball.
It is simultaneously fun and painful game to bet on.
Yes.
College, you'll get some bad beats in college basketball, like stuff that you just, anyway, we don't need to delve into that, but like guys, they're like down 12 points with 30 seconds left and just fouling their faces off. And all of a sudden game flies over. You don't see that in the world of professional football, but that's okay. So anyway, promo code Mike at sportsline.com/join, get all of Mike's picks, as well as picks from tons of other experts and a DFS optimizer, as well as Mike's DFS exposure, which you will want for Ravens and Browns. Ravens -3 at Cleveland. This line has moved substantially. It was Ravens -1 or 1.5 early on in the week. The over under 45.5. Baltimore 7-5 straight up, 6-5-1 against the spread, 4-7 to the under. Cleveland 9-3 straight up, 5-7 against the spread, and 7-5 to the over. Any thoughts initially on this game itself?
It's going to be fun. We're going to have a lot of fun on Twitter tonight. Two very controversial quarterbacks, really.
Oh, you're right.
At times. So we're going to have a lot of hot takes flying on Twitter. So I like that. My initial look at the game is I don't know that I can fully agree with all of the movement towards Baltimore based on how they played the last few weeks. I know that they're healthy tonight for the first time in a while. Still a tough spot for them. I think the Cleveland Browns we're just so used to the Browns not being good, right?
Yeah.
I think that they're still a little better than we think. So my initial gut would be, now that we've got the 3 points, I would certainly lean towards taking the 3 points more than laying them.
By the way, it's crazy that Cleveland is 9-3 straight up and only 5-7 against the spread. Like that's insane. You would think if Cleveland has 9 wins straight up that they would have covered a bunch, because typically Cleveland is undervalued, but I guess they've played some tomato cans and they've been a good running team all year long. The one thing that I worry about a little bit is, okay, so Baker Mayfield in prime time, I think he'll show up. I think he'll be invested in putting up a big game. This is, if Cleveland wins this game, they crack open the door a little bit more to potentially stealing the division. Now, I don't think it's going to happen. We talked about this on the recap pod, but if they went out and they topple Pittsburgh in week 17 and the Steelers lose, it is entirely possible. I think this is one of those games, Mike, where, and you alluded to it, it's really hard to look at this game and just from, if you use like a generic football brain, you're like, I mean, how are the Browns going to beat the Ravens? It just doesn't feel like the Browns should be able to beat the Ravens. But Kevin Stefanski has done a tremendous job scheming things up for this team. They use a ton of play action. They throttled the Titans, and the offense can get going. It had a few really bad weeks, but a lot of that was Cleveland weather. I just tend to worry a little bit about Baker against better defenses because he tends to make some mistakes there. Although it probably comes down to who, and this is simplified, it probably comes down to who wins the matchup of who wins the matchup of the interior Browns offensive line versus the interior Ravens defensive line. Because if they pressure Baker, he'll fall apart, and I think the Ravens can run away with it. If Cleveland can hold up, then I think they can certainly be the aggressor on offense.
Yeah, look, I mean, I think that honestly, it's the Super Bowl for the Browns at this point. Like, they want this game badly. They understand that, like you mentioned, there is a chance they could steal this division. I tend to think that the Browns are maybe not necessarily going to win that battle, but I don't think they're going to lose it. I think Baker's going to have just enough time. I think that, we're going to see some trick plays from the Browns. We're going to see some very creative plays. They have a number of big playmakers on the field, especially just absolutely loaded at running back, obviously with Chubb and Hunt. And then you got Jarvis Landry out there. So I think that it's going to come down to, can they connect on the one or two, Jarvis Landry pass plays, whatever it may be.
Yeah.
They're going to need a big play to win this game. I think that they're probably going to get it. But that's what it's going to come down to. They're going to need one of those big, explosive 60, 70-yard plays if they're going to win this game.
Do you think this is a good game for live betting in the sense that whoever gets a lead early on is probably going to be the team that gets in run mode, gets downhill, and puts it to the other team?
Yeah, so the two things that I'll be looking for early will just be, again, that battle up front. How much time is Baker Mayfield going to have in the first few drives of the game? And then the Ravens coming out there, are they going to look to try and get Mark Andrews involved immediately or not? Is Lamar able to throw the ball tonight or not? So those are things that we'll probably be able to tell in the first three possessions of the game, or at least have a little indication there. So if you're not comfortable with where the line is initially at pregame here, I do think it's an opportunity that you can bet it in game.
Yeah, and this is probably not a live game where you're grabbing like Steelers Bills on Sunday night. You could have grabbed plus money on both sides. I think this is one where you probably need to identify which way the game is going. And it just doesn't feel like this is going to be a back and forth battle. These Browns-Ravens games have tended the last 2 years really since Baker and Lamar started playing, where it's, we saw that game in Baltimore last year where the Browns just got up on them early, pounded the ball, broke off big plays with Chubb, and it was over. And then the Ravens didn't lose another regular season game. And then this year in week 1, Baltimore got up on them and just put it to the Browns. So I think it probably goes in an extreme direction one way. So you sort of need to, if you like you say, if you're not comfortable betting it beforehand, maybe look towards a live line. John Harbaugh, by the way, is 15-9-1 against the spread, 21-4 straight up against Cleveland, and 9-2-1 on the road against the spread in Cleveland, 10-2 straight up. So that is pretty good against the Cleveland Browns, although they're a little different this year. All right, let's take a break. When we come back, we'll talk prop bets and some DFS stuff. Okay, so the first thing I looked at when and I'm going to ask you this right off the bat because I want to get it in. If you think it checks out, the J.K. Dobbins rush yard prop. It's 45.5 at William Hill. That's the wrong number. It's absolutely the wrong number. I've got it at 50. I think it's 51.5. It's already climbed up to on my local 50.5. Excuse me. I don't even mind that. If you look at the last 5 running backs, Duke Johnson ran for 54 yards against the Browns. Duke Johnson. He doesn't run the ball, and he ran for 54 yards against the Browns. We saw the Miles Sanders got there. He had 66 rushing yards on 16 carries against the Browns. James Robinson went nuts against the Browns with 22 carries for 128 yards. And even Derrick Henry in what was basically a blowout game where they wouldn't be using Henry still got there rushing the ball. Let's see. What do you have? It's 15 times for 60 yards. So I know that, Dobbins is splitting carries with Ingram and Gus Edwards, and they're 2 weeks removed from the COVID list. But I still feel like given his snap share, and it was down to 38% of the snaps against the Cowboys, but that was a blowout victory, and he had 11 carries for 71 yards. I mean, he hadn't been below 40 prior to that until like week 5 against the Bengals. I feel like he's just going to get 15 carries and he's going to rush for 60 yards. And that's kind of the worst case. Am I crazy?
Not crazy. I think you're overstating it just a little bit in the sense that I don't think that I would be shocked if he got up to 15 carries. I'm projecting it around 11.5. So right between 11 and 12. Okay. Which is my only cause for concern there. My number on it is 55. So I would certainly be playing it at the point that you've got it there at William Hill right now. I look, he's got a ton of upside, definitely can burst a big run at any time. My concern is simply the fact that they have all 3 of them. Gus Edwards is there. Mark Ingram is there. Mark Andrews is back. It does open up the run theoretically a little more if they can throw the ball over the middle to Mark Andrews. It's just one of those where I could see you're going to need a 25-plus yard run from Dobbins, I think, to like really feel safe about it. As of right now, though, at that number, anything below, say, 48, I would play it right now, as I do think it's going to the market's probably going to settle around 50.5 to 51 by the time the game kicks. Okay.
I see Ingram at what did I see Ingram at 19.5 rushing yards and Gus Edwards 31.5. J.K. Dobbins already up to 46.5 on William Hill. So if you're betting on William Hill, wherever you're betting, I would get that now because I think that number is going to get to 50.5. And
yeah,
you know, maybe I don't know if there's value on the under at 50.5. You know, like you said, you have
probably not. It's probably I'll play it up to basically 50, and then after that, I would need it to get to 60 to really feel comfortable. You know, leaning towards the under.
Any interest in either Edwards or Ingram at those fairly reduced numbers?
If I had to, so I think the Ingram number is very efficient. I've got him at 20.5. I do have about 5 yards to the under on Gus Edwards.
Ooh, all right, interesting. So you actually, all right. So you don't love those options. What sort of props would you be looking at then?
I think that there's a couple that we can look at. Actually, it's as crazy as it sounds. Baker Mayfield under on passing.
I don't think that's
217.
Are you being sarcastic? I don't think that's crazy.
No, I like it a lot.
Baker Mayfield under passing yards is always in play.
Yeah.
Okay.
I like that. I like that a lot here. I think that we're going to see some trick plays. We're going to see a lot of they're going to attempt to run the ball with Chubb. So I definitely like the under on Baker Mayfield passing yards.
Okay. And so you see 217 on William Hill for Baker?
Yes. I believe that's what it is there.
Yeah. 217.5. And you would go under. How low would you play that? Because that's a low number anyway, but those numbers tend to plummet precipitously when people start hammering them.
I would play it under 210 to 212.
Okay. I like 210. I mean, that's you're basically there in that the pathway for that is pretty simple. Like you said, they want to run the ball. They're going to use other guys in the passing game. They are not going to try and take shots down the field, and they're not going to try and make Baker Mayfield throw the ball a bunch against a good defense because that's where you get in trouble.
Exactly.
The only route where that gets I think you lose this, like easily lose it, is if Baltimore hits a couple big plays early and they're just and Cleveland's chasing points. But we've seen it. We saw him get pulled against the Steelers. He was injured, of course, but I mean, you know, where it's just like, all right, like this is just we need to get him out of here for his own sake. Any other props that stand out to you?
Let's see. I need to look at the number on some of the receiving yards. If you do have a couple of them in front of you, you want to read off to me and I can give you my number on the players.
I got Jarvis. You want Browns or Ravens?
Either way.
All right. Jarvis Landry, 59.5.
So I've got about 4 yard edge on that one. I got him at 63 is my number. It's not enough for me at that number to play it. If I wanted action on it, I would certainly lean towards the over there, but for a receiver like that with that number at that point, that's not enough for me to pull the trigger on it.
Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt, the two running backs. Kareem Hunt is 14.5 and Chubb is 6.5 receiving yards.
Chubb. Okay. I got Chubb. I would definitely lean over on that. That's essentially you're looking for one pass there. I have him at 10. Kareem Hunt, I only have at 17.
Okay.
So I would be more interested in the Chubb over there just because it's one play.
Okay. Rashad Higgins is 40.5. I don't actually see a number for Austin Hooper on here, but we have Rashad Higgins at 40.5, and then Donovan People-Jones at 23.5.
So on Higgins, I would lean over. I have about 7 yards there. I think it's close that if I wanted to play a Browns wide receiver there, I think that Higgins would be the overplay that I would be most comfortable making at that number.
For the, this is a mild complaint about William Hill. I don't like how they split up the teams on the receiving yards. I wish they would just put all the receiving yards
right.
But you know, they can take that up with customer service, I guess. So what was I looking for here? Marquise Brown. All right, Marquise Brown, 42.5. Devin Duvernay, 22.5. Willie Snead, 30.5. And Mark Andrews, 45.5.
All right. I don't have edges anywhere other than Devin Duvernay under. Which makes me incredibly nervous because it's one play and he's absolutely electric if he does get the ball in his hands.
Yes, he is.
But having Willie Snead back, Miles Boykin is still going to be in the rotation there. I think that, and obviously Mark Andrews.
Boykin's 11.5 too, if I didn't read that one.
Yeah, so I would lean over on Boykin and under on Duvernay at those two numbers, but
Okay.
They haven't. As much as I've wanted them to, they have not been willing to throw the ball to Devin Duvernay.
Yeah, it's frustrating.
Yeah, he's an elite athlete. He's incredibly fast. So I'm very nervous about it. Always betting, and especially an under at that point. But I do think it's the right play considering what we've seen from them and the personnel that they're going to have available tonight.
All right, well, let's talk about DFS. So I'm guessing you're not looking towards Devin Duvernay as a captain spot here. Anybody stand out to you as a top choice, or do you have any? By the way, any lottery props? Anything? We don't have to worry about that. We'll throw out a first touchdown score somewhere on Twitter or something like that. Anybody when you look at DFS, is it a Lamar? Are you going running back? Are you going Lamar at captain? What are you thinking here?
So the top two captains for sure are going to be Lamar Jackson and Nick Chubb. Both of those two guys are going to have the highest probabilities of having the top score or being the top value on the slate. Obviously, Lamar, for obvious reasons, has that rushing floor and it gets the passing of points as the quarterback. But I'll have a lot of Nick Chubb. Those two guys will probably end up taking 40%, 45% of my captain's exposure. And then we're going to see a lot of mid-range. So in the 6 to 8% range, we're going to have Baker Mayfield, Landry, Dobbins, Mark Andrews. And then down maybe 4%, I'll have Kareem Hunt, Marquise Brown. But yeah, it's going to be a lot of Lamar Jackson, Nick Chubb at the top, and then a lot of equal exposure to all those what I would call fringe captain plays, which will be, again, Landry, Andrews, Dobbins, all those guys.
Anybody stand out as value to you? It's kind of tough to find. I mean, Justice Hill, $900, but he just doesn't see the snaps when they've got the other three guys out there. James Prochet, $300 again. Probably not going to see a ton of action. There's not. The cheap guys, Duvernay, who we mentioned, 2,400 is expensive. Miles Boykin at 3,300 is not bad. Andrews 4,200. This is an interesting slate in the sense that there's not that clear cut. Unless I'm missing it, not that clear cut dirt cheap guy where you can unlock everything. Is there?
Not really. I think that what you're going to see is we're going to end up having a lot of Cody Parkey lineups tonight. $3,400 in the middle there. This is definitely a spot where we could see some field goals. At 3,400, like I said, there's a severe lack of value. So we're going to see a lot of Justin Tucker, Cody Parkey. I will have a little bit of Miles Boykin in there, but not, Luke Wilson potentially, I think is an interesting punt with Mark Andrews back. I think that there's a scenario in which he still sees the field a decent amount. And it's something you have to condition yourself to when you're playing Showdown slate DFS is when we play a guy like Luke Wilson, we need one decent catch, right?
Right. We
don't need him on the field for 60% of the snaps. Literally 10, 12% of the snaps is fine as long as we're getting 1 to 2 targets here.
Okay.
So that's just something you have to condition yourself to, but value is relatively tough on this slate. We don't have the obvious $200 or $500 play on this slate, unfortunately.
Yeah, it does seem though, even with, if you want to go with, if you went Lamar Jackson, Chubb, Dobbins, you could throw the Ravens defense in there as well. You could go Tucker and Cody Parkey, and you're leaving 2,300 on the floor. And if you wanted to ditch the Ravens defense, you could also, you could force Rashad Higgins in there and have 500 left over. Willie Snead is available. Gus Edwards, Harrison Bryant. It's very easy to get all the pieces you want in there if you toss in one kicker or one defense. So you just really have to be right about which kicker goes off or which defense goes off. And it does feel like it could be a low scoring game, just because of, you could see a bunch of jailbreaks, but it does feel like these teams run so much that maybe we don't see a ton of points.
Oh yeah, definitely. Which, like I said, the kickers are firmly in play there. Okay. I have both kickers projected to outscore Harrison Bryant, Willie Snead. Very similar median projection to Rashad Higgins. We don't want it to happen, right? But there's a really good chance that one of the kickers outscores Marquise Brown, right? We don't want it to happen.
Great chance.
But there's a great chance that that's going to happen in this game.
I mean, I've been playing Marquise Brown for 14 freaking weeks now. There's a great chance it happens. I'm trying to look at did I see that there was, let me just double check something. This may be an important factor. Let's see. When tonight. All right. Ooh, it's going to be this wind is going to be in the 19-mile-an-hour range around 8 p.m.
Wow.
It's 24 miles an hour in Cleveland right now. That's a good, keep an eye on the wind. There's a ton of wind. You're definitely going to want running guys in DFS, and you're probably going to want to play that under. All right. Could have thought of that off the top, but whatever. All right. Mike, as always, a pleasure, buddy. Thanks for doing it. Let's go cash some lineups.